Right after the Civil War, the government of the young Soviet Republic made its first steps toward the resurrection of domestic shipbuilding. The lack of resources did not allow them to create a new modern military fleet. That's why they had to start with rebuilding and modifying old or unfinished ships of the Tsar's era. The light cruiser Krasnyi Kavkaz, the Red Caucasus, was one of them. She became the pride and trademark of the USSR.
The ship was laid down in 1913 under the name Admiral Lazarev, and she belonged to the Admiral Nahimov type, which was the Black Sea variant of Baltic Svetlanas. At the end of 1926, the ship received a new name, Krasnyi Kavkaz, and engineers began working on the project to radically rebuild the cruiser and make it adequate for requirements of the time. The main specifications of the ship did not change during modernization. She had a length of 170 meters, a beam of 16 meters, and a total displacement of 9,030 tons. Two armor belts stretched along the hull of the Krasnyi Kavkaz. The main belt was 75 millimeters thick, and the upper one was 25 millimeters thick. The cruiser was also protected by two armor decks of 20 to 25 millimeters thick. The armor on the primary armament turrets was from 20 to 38 millimeters, and the coning tower was from 75 to 125 millimeters. The main objective of the modernization was to update the cruiser's armament. The newest Soviet B-1K 180 millimeter guns could not have come at a better time. The gun provided an enormous muzzle speed for shells, which granted high armor penetration and an unbelievable for a gun of this caliber range of fire, about 40 kilometers. However, these unique capabilities came at a price: the low survivability of the barrel. It had to be replaced after a few dozen shots. Krasnyi Kavkaz had 4 such guns installed in specially designed single-mount turrets on the bow and stern of the ship to ensure optimal sectors of fire. During the modernization, the cruiser received dual-purpose artillery, 6 twin 100mm Mini-Zini mounts made in Italy. In the following years, the number of guns on the ship continued to increase. As for anti-aircraft defense, by 1942, Krasnyi Kavkaz had 2 anti-aircraft mounts with a caliber of 76 millimeters, 4 45mm cannons, 10 37mm automatic guns, 6 anti-aircraft DSHK machine guns, and 2 coaxial Vickers machine guns with a caliber of 12.7 millimeters. The torpedo armament of the Krasnyi Kavkaz consisted of 4 triple 457mm torpedo launchers. On top of that, the cruiser could carry up to 180 obstacle mines and 40 depth charges. Krasnyi Kavkaz had typical features for a warship of the 1920s and 30s. Powerful guns suitable for a heavy cruiser were mounted on a light cruiser with light armor. Theoretically, her guns could easily penetrate her own armor at any distance. However, from the moment she was commissioned, Krasnyi Kavkaz was the most advanced cruiser in the Soviet Navy. On January 25, 1932, the light cruiser Krasnyi Kavkaz hoisted the Navy flag and joined the naval forces of the Red Army. To demonstrate the growing power of the young country, she visited ports in Greece, Turkey, and Italy. But her main trials began when she entered World War II, the same day the entire Soviet Union did.
On the night of June 21, 1941, Captain 2nd Rank Gushin, the commander of Krasnyi Kavkaz, stayed on board. At around 2 a.m., a watchkeeper entered his cabin and reported, "Comrade Commander, the main base has announced a big assembly." At 3:07 a.m., observers heard the sound of the first enemy aircraft on approach, and 40 minutes later, Sevastopol was struck by air bombs. A shipwide broadcast announced, "Action stations, prepare the ship for battle." The war began.
From the first days of the war, Krasnyi Kavkaz became indispensable in the Black Sea. The cruiser laid minefields, brought reinforcements, ammunition, and provisions to besieged Odessa and Sevastopol, supported defenders of these cities with her artillery, and evacuated troops. The cruiser played an important role in the landing operation during the Battle of the Kerch Peninsula in December 1941. For her contribution, she became one of the first ships of the USSR Navy to receive the guardship title. The cruiser almost perished in this operation. An enemy shell penetrated the armor of the second turret and exploded inside. The flame engulfed powder bags, special bag charges consisting of powder plates, and was going to spread to the ammunition magazine. A sailor named Vasily Pokutny regained consciousness after the explosion and wanted to throw the burning powder bags out, but was too weak to do so. Instead, he threw himself on it and started to extinguish the flame with his body. He managed to prevent the fire from spreading and survived, though he suffered many severe burns. In total, from 1941 to 1943, cruiser Krasnyi Kavkaz sailed on 64 combat missions, repelled more than 200 attacks from enemy aircraft, and transported more than 60,000 soldiers and civilians. For Krasnyi Kavkaz, World War II ended in September 1944, when she was sent for repairs once again. The ship returned to Sevastopol only after Victory Day on May 23, 1945.
Krasnyi Kavkaz served her motherland until her last day. In 1947, she became a training ship, and 5 years later, her armaments were dismantled. The former cruiser became a practice target, and on November 21, 1952, the hull of Krasnyi Kavkaz was sunk during tests of air-launched cruise missiles. That was the end of the operational record of the Soviet ship that became a worthy successor to the Russian Navy's traditions.